All right. I always feel welcome when I come to Friendship North. I got greeted this morning by Reaper. He said, I thought you were going to be at Lucas Ferry campus. That's why I came here. So, love it. Love it. I've also, I told Reaper I love you because I have to. And I do. I've already faced persecution this morning. Steve made fun of my goatee and my mustache this morning in church. Can you believe that? No. Every man with facial hair just knows that pain, right? I'm glad I'm finally in the club. Took 43 years, but I finally got here. Hallelujah. Thanks to the worship team for serving the church this morning and letting us come into His presence and sing. I just appreciate that. And the tech team putting the lyrics up. It's a good thing to be in a place where, as a worship leader, a lot of times, I'm having to, be on stage and, I get to be in God's presence, but a lot of times it's just good to not have anything to do and just sit there and sing to God and just focus. And I love that. I love being in the tangible presence of the Lord. And this morning, I'm here to speak a message to build up somebody's faith today. So y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. All right. There are by the way, if you've got kids in the room, I'm going to be talking about an Old Testament story that is probably not PG. So just going to tell it like it is this morning. If you got kids and they want to go on to kids' church, that's probably a good thing. Otherwise, you're going to have some interesting conversations on the way home. There are a lot of stories in the Bible that make me scratch my head in wonder. Especially when you go through the Old Testament, there's stuff that just sits and makes you go, what in the world were humans doing in this story? And I wonder if I were in the story, would I act the same way as some of the heroes in the story? And I wonder what everybody else was thinking surrounding the heroes in some of the Old Testament stories. And I wonder how often people in the stories in the Old Testament were ready to quit and throw in the towel and just give up completely when everything went sideways. And today I want to talk to dreamers. I feel deep in my heart that I'm supposed to talk to dreamers today. People who have a God-given desire, a vision, a hope, a plan, a daydream, a calling, a mission. I want to talk to every person that God has placed a plan, a desire inside. Who are you? Are you in there? Anybody got a mission, a desire, a dream, something? All right? Good. I want us to talk about a man named Joseph. We're not talking about Jesus' stepdaddy. We're talking about Joseph in the Old Testament, the Genesis chapter 37. The story of Joseph is difficult. It is complicated. It is hard. It is full of dysfunctional family and disappointment, and is full of frustration. And my daughter has a children's book. It's a children's Bible story book. And we try to read a story. I try to read a story out of it most every night where I sit down and we just go through it. And we came across the story of Joseph, and that book is so PG and glossed over and super nice that the story didn't even make sense. Why is this guy in prison? Why was his brothers trying to put him in a pit? Why? And I had to finally just start filling in the gaps where the story didn't make sense. I had to start filling in the gaps with the gospel because the story didn't even make sense. It was so clean. The story of Joseph is not clean. It's not nice. It's rough and it's hard. It's not a sitcom that ends in 30 minutes with everybody getting along, because Joseph is the son of a man named Jacob. And if you know anything about the story, Jacob had a bunch of kids with 4 different women all at the same time. Can you say dysfunctional? Hello? All right. Jacob had some issues. Come on. Joseph came up in a family with issues. Jacob's father was Isaac. Isaac was the kid that was taken up on a mountain by his father, who had a knife and said, I'm going to kill you because God told me to. Don't you know that Isaac probably thought, my daddy's got some issues, but Abraham had been told by God to take your kid up on top of the mountain and stab him in the heart and sacrifice him. And that there was probably some dysfunction in between their relationship after that, don't you think? Dysfunction, but God had blessed Abraham and said, Abraham, I'm going to bless you and your family, and you'll be the father of many nations. And God was with Abraham, and God was with Isaac. God was with Jacob. And in comes Joseph. Joseph is birthed by his mom named Rachel. Rachel was in a contest with her sister to have more kids with the same husband. Gross. I mean, can you imagine the dysfunction? That's gross. And they got so serious about this competition to have kids that when Rachel saw that Leah was having more kids, she took her servant girl and said, go into my husband, have some kids for me. And then Leah got all jealous and said to her servant girl, go into my husband, have some kids for me. So 4 women are competing to have kids for one. Jacob, I barely do good with one wife. There's some dysfunction going on here. And Joseph is born into a family with all of these stepbrothers with other mothers that don't like him. It's all dysfunction. And because Joseph is born late in his father's life, he becomes the favorite. He hadn't done anything wrong. He hadn't done anything stupid. And some of the stories of his older brothers are crazy. Crazy stuff. They had a sister. The sister gets captive. She gets kidnapped and raped. And so what do the guys do? They lied to the men that captured her and said, if you circumcise yourself, we'll let you marry our daughter. So they circumcised themselves, and then they went and killed all the men that circumcised themselves. That's some crazy stuff. Dysfunction. Right? So Joseph is born into this family. His brothers already don't like him. And then he gets a coat from his dad made of multiple colors. And his dad is like, hey, you're my favorite kid. Have a coat. Nice. And that just helps everything in the relationship with his family. There's jealousy. There's envy. And then God visits Joseph with some dreams. He gives Joseph some dreams. And Joseph goes to his brothers and lets them hear these dreams. Come on, somebody agree with me. You shouldn't tell everybody your dreams. Hello? Not everybody needs to know what God is talking to you about. Not everybody needs to know what God has put in your heart, because not everybody is on God's page with you. Not everybody understands the relationship God has with you, and not everybody can see what God is going to do in your life down the road. Don't share your dreams with everybody. Just don't go and put it out there for everyone. Because why? Because people are dysfunctional. Not everybody has got the same heart. And listen, Joseph didn't ask for it either. Joseph didn't ask for the dream to be put in his heart. He's not like going to God and saying, God, please tell me some things that are going to mess everything up in my life. But God just comes and plops a dream in Joseph's heart. And if you'll turn with me in the book of Genesis chapter 37, verse 7, here's where the gospel talks about the dreams that God gave Joseph. Genesis chapter 37. Genesis is the first book in the Old Testament. It's the 37th chapter. I'm going to read it while you find it. Joseph says, the first dream, there we were, binding sheaves of grain in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose also and stood upright, and indeed your sheaves stood up all around it and bowed down to my sheaves. His brothers didn't like that very much. We're going to bow down to you, youngest, most favorite kid? No. And then God gives him a second dream. And in the second dream he says, the sun and the moon, and then all the 11 stars, they're all going to bow down before me. And his dad was like, no? You think your mom and I are going to bow down to you? Because they're living in a big patriarchal society, and there's no government, there's no rules, it's just clan by clan by clan. And Jacob, he looks at his son Joseph, he's like, I'm not going to bow down to you. I'm the king of this family. Joseph's got some dysfunction. But God had spoken to Joseph. And there's something huge that I really don't want to miss. I'm going to say it again. God didn't ask Joseph's permission before he gave him the dream. How many of you got something that God dropped in your heart that you didn't ask for, but all of a sudden you woke up one day just dreaming about something like, I think I'd like to do this for God. And just hit you. You didn't see it coming. You didn't expect it. But pow, it just hit you. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, all right, what do I do with this, God? God just handed it to him. And that happens to us. But listen, the telling of the dream, it didn't go over well. His whole family rebuked him. We got to be careful who we share the dreams that God grants us. We got to be careful who we share that with. And Joseph's story, it continues on from chapter 37 of the book of Genesis all the way to the end of chapter 50. And it's way too much information for us to disseminate right now in this time frame, so I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes overview. Is that okay? Joseph gets these dreams. God deposits something in his heart that he cannot get rid of. And his brothers are not on board with it. One day, his dad sends his brothers out to the field to go check on all the herds. They're gone for a couple of days. Joseph gets brought into his dad's tent. His dad said, I need you to go check on your brothers. Go find out where they are. Go see how they are. So Joseph pops off. He goes off to go look for his brothers. His brothers see them from afar off, and what do they say? Oh, here comes our brother. Let's kill him. Dysfunction. There's some problems in that household. They say, let's. Here comes the little brother. Let's kill him. So he comes upon his brothers. They attack him. It is probably a physical fight. You've had brothers, probably most of you, some of you have had physical fights with your sibling. It's a bad physical fight. They rip off his coat, they tear it up, and then they throw him in an empty well, a pit. He cannot get out. He's 17 years old. He's physically fit. This is a rough pit if he cannot get himself out of it. There's probably extreme terror. There's frustration. There's some panic going on in his heart because this isn't the way that he thought the day was supposed to go. This isn't the way that he thought the plan was supposed to go. This isn't what he planned for. This isn't what he hoped for. He didn't see his life going this way, and he's stuck in this pit with a whole bunch of guys that want to kill him. But one brother stands up for him and says, you know what? We're not going to kill him. We're going to sell him as a slave. And merchants come by. They bind him up, pull him out of the well, sell him as a slave. He goes down to Egypt, and he's like, this is not the way that I wanted this week to go. I thought God just gave me some dreams and God spoke to me, and this is what I get for listening to God. That's a place a lot of us would probably give up in that moment. Well, I guess I didn't hear from God. When we hear from God and everything goes sideways, then we say, oh, based on my circumstance, I guess I didn't hear from God because this isn't the way that I thought it was going to turn out. I guess God is not with me because things have gone sideways. And we don't see Joseph giving up. On the contrary, what we do see from him is that he begins to make the most out of his situation. You fast forward into Genesis chapter 39, look at verse 2. The Lord was with Joseph, Scripture says. And he was a successful man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hands. So Joseph found favor in his sight, and served him, and he made him overseer of his house. And all that he had, he put under his authority. Where Joseph was not ideal. It was not where he thought he should be. It was not where he thought he would end up. And in spite of his situation, he honored the Lord. Hello?
Amen.
He honored the Lord in spite of everything being sideways. And we see that as the story goes on, that his success was not without dysfunction. Let me tell you, anytime that you have any measure of success, dysfunction is right on its heels. All right? Every time. Every time you get a win, there's something coming to try to knock your feet from under him. He has a little bit of success. His boss's wife thinks, oh, that's a honey. I like him. He was a good-looking man. He had authority. She says, I want to sleep with you in my room. And he says, no. And he says, no the next day. And he says, no the next day. And he says, no the next day. And it just continues on. She is after him. I want you in my bed. And finally, in the book of Genesis chapter 39:9, he looks at her and he says, there is no greater in this house than I. Nor has my boss kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?
Amen.
How many men would act like that? When your world has gone sideways and everything is messed up, here comes a woman and she just presents herself. You can have whatever you like. Instead of giving up hope, instead of giving up his morals, instead of giving up his integrity, instead of giving up honoring the Lord, he said, no, I'm going to honor the Lord in this decision right here, right now. And even in the dysfunction, his heart was on God and honoring God in the middle of that moment. And remember, that's not where he wanted to be. It wasn't what he wanted to be doing. He wasn't doing anything of what he wanted to do in his life, and he was still wanting to honor God. And you would think that in that moment, God would set up this big hedge of protection to protect him from what was going to happen coming up, right? You would think, oh, he made the right decision, so now everything's going to work out good. Sitcom's going to end, roll the credits, everybody gets along. Nope. She accuses him of being a rapist. Goes to her husband and says, this man tried to rape me. So what does the husband do? Throws him in the prison. You would have thought, oh man, everything's going to work out. No, it went sideways again. And in the prison, it wasn't a prison at all like what we have today. There was no court. There was no trial. There were no attorneys. There's no bond. There's no appeal. There's no parole. There is no sentence. You're just in there. Good luck. See ya on the other side of life. He's just stuck in this prison. A person could lose hope real fast when you think you've been living right and you keep getting hit with dysfunction. I'm going to say that again. A person can lose hope real fast when you think that you've been living right and you've been hit with dysfunction. But not Joseph, all right? Joseph bucked up in his heart. He made the decisions that honored God in spite of his situation. And he worked his way up to being in charge of the prison. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 39, verse 23, the keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. You may ask the same question here that I may ask. If God was with him to bless him to be an authority figure in the prison, why didn't God just go ahead and bless him out of the prison? Why did God not, if God was with him, why didn't God just get him out of the prison right then and there? Why is God's blessing on Joseph's life in a place he does not want to be in a place he never planned on going, in a situation where he never wanted to be? Why did God just not pull him out of that prison? He sits in the prison and he meets two men, a butler and a baker employed by Pharaoh. God gives them dreams. They talk about their dreams with Joseph, and Joseph looks at the baker and says, you're going to be dead in 3 days. He looks at the butler and says, you're going to be reinstated in 3 days. Don't forget me when you get back to where you're going, butler. And that happened. 3 days' time went by. The baker was hung. The butler gets put back in his job. Genesis chapter 40, verse 14. This is where Joseph looks at him and says, remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this jail. And all of a sudden, the glory of God comes into Joseph's life. He interprets these dreams. It goes well for that butler, and he forgets him. The butler leaves the prison, completely forgets about Joseph. Remember, we're talking about dreams right now, okay? We're talking about vision, dreams. God has given Joseph dreams, and here he is living a life that resembles nothing like those dreams. You ever been in a place where God spoke to you and given you vision, and all of a sudden nothing turns out like the vision? You're met with nothing but frustration. Nothing's happening like you want it to happen. Nothing's happening like you think it should happen, and everybody is against you, and it just feels like everything's falling apart, and you're never going to get to where God wants you to go. But God is with Joseph in this moment. He was with him in the well pit. He was with him in Potiphar's house. He was with him in Potiphar's bedroom. He was with him in the prison, because David's heart pleased the Lord in the little decisions, in the small decisions. And for 2 years, Joseph made decisions that pleased the Lord in spite of his situation. Then Pharaoh, king of Egypt, has some dreams. Has some dreams that nobody has any clue what in the world his dreams are about. And the butler overhears the conversations and goes up to Pharaoh and says, hey, 2 years ago, this guy told me what my dream was about, and it absolutely came true. His name is Joseph. And they brought him up to Pharaoh's room. Joseph, under the power and the glory of God, he gets called up and he interprets Joseph's dreams. These big fat cows are walking around, and skinny cows come and eat the skinny cows eat the big cows. That's a weird dream. And then there's grain walking around. That's weird, first of all. And the grain is healthy. And then skinny things of grain come up that look sickly, and they eat the big. That's weird. But God gives Joseph this interpretation. There's going to be 7 good years, and then 7 years of famine. You better get ready, Pharaoh. You better put somebody in charge. Notice he doesn't put himself in the position. He just recommends to Pharaoh, you need somebody in charge to do it. He doesn't exalt himself. He just makes a good little decision. I'm going to honor the Lord. God has told me the interpretation of this dream. I'm just going to honor the Lord in this tough situation. He doesn't know if he's going back to prison that day. He has no hope of rescue. He has no hope that everything's going to get right. He's just honoring the Lord in that little decision. And all of a sudden Pharaoh says, you're the man. You're going to take over everything in Egypt. The only person that will be over authority over you is me. You are the second in command of all Egypt. And God elevates him to a place of authority. But even in that didn't look like Joseph's dream. It's not where he wanted to be. He's in a land where he hasn't seen his mother in 13 years. He hasn't seen his father in 13 years. He's speaking a language that's foreign to him. He's in a culture that he didn't grow up in. All of his family are over in Canaan. This is not what he wanted for his life. Sometimes you look at somebody that comes into this big place of success and this big place of authority, and you think, oh, wow, they finally made it. I bet they're content. 9 times out of 10, you ask, probably about 10 times out of 10, you ask somebody that's coming to that big place of authority, that big place of success, are you satisfied in your life? Most of the time they say no. Most of the time they say no. Why? Because satisfaction doesn't come from your environment. It comes from Jesus. Amen. It comes from inside the heart. I want to say this to you this morning. You may not be where you thought you'd be, but who are you to say it's not where you're supposed to be? Joseph didn't think this is where he would wind up, but who is to say that Joseph wasn't right where he was supposed to be? No one in Joseph's family saw this coming. No one would have believed that God was going to do that in that dream. No one could have ever put the pieces together that God was going to use Joseph to save an entire people from death and starvation. And God has a way of doing His own thing in spite of how we think it should be done. How many of you, your life turned out like you thought it was going to turn out? Anybody? No hands going up? Is it because God's got a way of making things happen or letting things happen that we didn't plan on? Hello? Amen. Then there was another son, centuries later, beloved by his father, who came with a message to his brothers, whose brothers looked at him and said, no, you ain't the one, and betrayed him unto arrest. And as before he went to the cross, he said, if there's another way to do this, God, that'd be great, but not what I want, but you want. And that son went to the cross, and he didn't look like the Messiah. He didn't look like what the people thought he was going to look like. He didn't look like a king, but he went down to the cross and gave his life and rose from the dead, and then now every knee will bow and every tongue will confess before him. And Joseph was a forerunner to that, showed what it was going to look like. Amen. And people, his disciples, speaking of Jesus, the disciples probably were thinking after his resurrection, we are not where we thought we would be. Especially since they didn't understand fully what Jesus was doing while he was doing his ministry. If you look at the disciples, they were just as confused about what Jesus was doing as anybody else. And they said, we're probably not where we thought we'd be, but who's to say we're not where we're supposed to be? And Jesus had set a fire in their hearts as disciples to go out and spread the gospel and do ministry and honor the Lord with their lives. And guess what? It didn't look like they thought it was going to look like. It was hard. It was full of dysfunction. It was full of hardship and setbacks and beatings and jail and martyrdom. And they didn't give up. I'm talking to dreamers today. Listen to me, folks. Jesus came and showed them the truth and set off dreams inside of them. And they planted churches and they wrote epistles and they preached in different countries and they evangelized their own countries. And it was hard. Say hard. But they honored the Lord even though where they were did not look like what they thought it was going to look like. Amen. Some of you are dreamers in here today. I want to talk to you. People who have got a God-given desire, a vision, a hope, a desire, a daydream, a calling, a mission. God has placed things in our hearts. Daydreams, visions, ministries. And your life may not have turned out the way that you thought it was going to turn out. You went through some stuff that you didn't want to go through. And God did not deliver you out of it. He delivered you through it. Amen. And you got some scars on you. And you got some pain and some discouragement and disappointment because God didn't get you out of it. He got you through it. And God's dream has not left you yet. You think, well, I'm old in age now and I'll never see this dream and desire come to pass. Well, it hadn't left you yet. And you're losing hope of ever getting to lay your hands on it. I'm here to tell you this morning, don't give up on God. Amen. Don't give up on God. You may have 10 people in your life you're related to who want you dead. Like Joseph, don't give up on God. Keep honoring Him anyway. You may have Potiphar's wife pulling out your clothes and trying to accuse you of rape. Don't give up on God. You may be in a situation where it feels like you are in a prison and you can't see your way out of it. Keep honoring God where you are in the little decisions. Stop looking at your circumstance for validation through easy paths. and honor the Lord and hold on to the dream. Too many people will start doing something for God, and it won't be easy, and they will be met with frustration and dysfunction, and they will have dysfunctional people in their life, and they'll say, well, listen, if it's this hard, I must have missed God, and they will stop.
Thank you.
And that's not the Lord.
Amen.
The validation of God's will is not if is it easy. The validation of God's will is if everything works out. That's not right. The validation of God's will is if did God tell you to do it? Yes. There you go. Move forward if God told you to do it. Move forward if God's spoken into your heart. Move forward if it's hard. Move forward if you got resistance. Move forward if people are against you. Move forward. Keep moving forward. Why? Because that's what God's will is. That's the only way that the kingdom advances. Not because it's easy, but because God said to do it. I want to read from the second book of Corinthians, chapter 11, starting in verse 23. From one of my heroes in the faith, the Apostle Paul. I would like to give you a job description of the ministry. Are you ready for it? Here we go. In labors more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prison more frequently, in death often. From the Jews 5 times I was stoned, 3 times I was shipwrecked, a day and a night I've been in the deep, in journeys often, in perils of water, in perils of robbers, in perils of my own countrymen, in perils of the Gentiles, in perils in the city, perils of the wilderness, perils of the sea, perils among false brethren, in wilderness, and in toil, and in sleeplessness, often in hunger and thirst, in fastings, in cold and naked. Does that look like God is with him? A lot of people would say, no, it does not look like God is with him. It looks like he missed the Lord. But you know what? Paul wasn't concerned about that. We see that in the next thing that he wrote. He wasn't concerned about how hard it was. His concern, he says, besides the other things, what comes upon me daily, my deep concern for all the churches. Why did he say that? Because God nailed a dream in the pit of his heart. Go plant churches. Paul, go do something. And Paul said, that's my passion, that's my drive, that's my goal, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to look at the evidence of everything around me to validate God's calling. I'm going to listen to the Spirit inside of me. That's the only validation I need. If I get beat up, fine. If I get to go to prison, fine. If I don't have the money for it, fine. If I don't have the support from people, fine. I'm going to keep on doing it anyway. Why? Because that's God's calling. Amen. That's God's calling. Here's a man who's filled with the Spirit. He's planting churches. But what's on his mind? The church is on his mind. The dream and burning desire God placed in his heart. The church. He doesn't give up because it's hard. He doesn't give up because it doesn't look like he thought it would look like. He is faithful to the burning desire placed in his heart to honor the Lord in spite of where he is and where it's happening. 1993, I gave my life to Jesus as a 17-year-old. I had a desire to go into a career, and I had a college picked out, but I really felt like the Lord wanted me to take time off of going to a secular college to get my degree, to go to a Bible college. And I went to that Bible college just to get to know Jesus. I had no desire to go into the ministry. I didn't want it at all because I'd seen what it did to pastors and pastors' families. I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. And it was in that moment at the Bible school on an October night in a worship service that the Lord just changed my heart and said, I want you to pursue nothing but ministry. And everything in my heart changed. I didn't ask for it, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't ask for it. I wasn't looking for it. I was just asking God one thing: your kingdom come, your will be done in my life. Bam! Desire. Hit me. Everything changed. And guess what? I thought it was going to be a fast track to success. Man, I was going to be on stages. I was going to be preaching festivals. I was going to be in front of millions. Fame, fortune, TV shows, signing autographs, praying for babies. The whole nine. I wound up in the Methodist church. Things didn't look like I thought they was going to look like. Did you know? Hello, can I have? Yes. Didn't look like it. Didn't look like it, but guess what? Who's to say I'm not right where I'm supposed to be? Man, right before Jessica and I moved back to Athens, Alabama in 2014, sitting in the office of the vice president of Highlands College, he looks at me and says, hey, guess what? I really feel like you're going to be a campus pastor at Church of the Highlands for the Highlands Clear. And all of a sudden, my ego goes through the roof like, yeah, I'm going to be, this is it. I got a desire to be a pastor. This is it. I'm going to have my own. I'm going to pastor thousands of people. And Jessica looks at me and she says, that's not God. And how many of you know when the Lord blesses your wife with a discerning spirit and she hears the Holy Spirit, you can't run from that. You can't fight it. God just dropped it into Jessica's heart. That guy speaking for Jesus, and she was right. And we went home and prayed and fasted and just, God, what do you want to do? And Steve picks up the phone and calls us and like, hey, you want to move home? We're like, that's the Lord. Doesn't look like what we thought it was going to look like to come back to Athens because of my ambition. But God doesn't care a thing about my ambition. God doesn't care about that at all. What God cares about is my obedience. Amen. Obedience. And God doesn't give His power away to those who are in the building. He gives His power away to those who are obedient, to the faithful, who can be trusted in the little decisions. And this morning I preached to 11 people in a building without a bathroom. We doubled the children's ministry this morning. Doubled it because my child came to church. I get to pastor that thing in a few months coming up. I never thought that my first church would have 11 people. I wanted thousands. What an ego. What an ungodly thing. Because it doesn't look like I wanted it to look like, and it doesn't feel like I wanted it to look like. I'd say, no, this must not be Jesus. Because it's not what I thought it would be. Let me tell you, there are visions that are in your heart that you have not walked towards because it doesn't look like the thing that you thought it should look like, and God's just wanting you to be obedient in the first step and honor Him and move forward. You are not too old to move forward. You're not too poor to move forward. You're not too dumb to move forward. You're not too uneducated to move forward. All you need is Jesus in your heart and the Spirit empowering, and you need to move forward in the vision that God had for you 40 years ago that you haven't even moved on yet. Move forward. Move forward in it. Why? Because the kingdom of God advances when people trust in the dreams that God has given them. So I'm going to give you a couple of steps this morning. I want you to write this down. If you're a writer, just write this down. It's going to help you. I'm here to tell you today that you may not be where you thought you'd be, but who are you to say that you're not where you're supposed to be? Point number one, how do I see the vision of God in my heart come to pass? Number one, honor the Lord in your toughest of seasons. Honor the Lord in the toughest of seasons. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 22, verse 37, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. When did He say to do that? All the time. In the hard times, when it doesn't make sense, when somebody's trying to murder you, somebody's accusing you of rape, somebody's throwing you into prison, honor the Lord in the toughest of seasons. Amen. Number two, remember that God cannot lie. Hebrews 6:18 says God cannot lie. If God gave you a vision and gave you a dream, He is not a liar. Amen. Jesus says in Matthew chapter 28, verse 19 and 20, I am with you even to the end of the age. A lot of times we look at our situation and it goes sideways and we think, well, if God was with me, I wouldn't feel like this. If God was with me, I wouldn't be going through this. If God was with me, He'd deliver me. No, God is with you because He's not a liar. That's right. He's not a liar. Remember, God cannot lie. Shut that part of your brain down. Just shut it up. Say, I'm not going to believe anything that says God is not with me based on my circumstance. God is with me because He's not a liar. Number three, throw away your claim to what you think the vision is going to look like. Just throw it away. Why? Because God's ways are not our ways. His plans are not our plans. It ain't going to look like what you think it's going to look like. All right? Here's the verse that comes to mind is when Jesus is teaching his disciples to pray. He says, your kingdom come. Your will be done. Not my kingdom, not the way I wanted it to look like, not where I thought I would be, not who I'd be ministering to. Lord, who you? Well, your kingdom, what you want me to do. I'm going to throw away my claim to what I think it should look like. Get rid of your expectation and simply pray for his will to be done. Your story might be full of dysfunctional people, disappointment, and frustration. Hello? Friendship staff. There it is. Yeah, I said it. Does not mean that God's not in it, though.
That's right.
Come on, somebody! God, you may be starting a ministry soon, and God puts the people to help you, and they are the most dysfunctional people you've ever been around. And that may be God's plan. Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't stop. Don't whine. Don't pout. We have a saying around my house when my daughter starts whining. I say, Jovi, what does whining get you? And she says, nothing. And that's true. Adults, we need to have that in our life. Quit whining to God because it gets you nothing. Let's move forward in faith. And number 4, fourth point, most important. Follow Jesus. Follow Jesus. James chapter 4 verse 7 says, submit to God. Submit to him. Submit your worries, submit your fears, submit your anxieties, submit your desires, submit the things that you think it should look like and feel like and taste like and smell like. Submit it to him. Resist the devil. He'll flee from you. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Some of you need to remember the dreams that God has planted in your heart. Remember the callings. Remember the big things that he's placed in you that you don't think that you could ever do. Is he a liar?
No.
Is he a liar?
No.
Is God a liar?
No.
Is God a liar? No. Line your light upright with Jesus, submit to him, and let him drive the boat. How many of you called to ministry? How many of you given your life to Christ? How many of you saved? How many of you called to ministry? How many of you given your life to Christ? How many of you called to ministry? How many of you given your life to Christ? It's all of us. It's all of us. All of us. The Great Commission is not set aside for Stephen Eugene Dorning. I just want to see who's awake. I just want to see who's awake. It's not his middle name, but you can call him that. I gave you permission. Dysfunctional! Dysfunctional! Listen, I just want to make sure you're awake. The Great Commission, it's not on his shoulders. It's not on Eric's shoulders. It's on all of us.
Right. Sure is.
All of us. So begin to ask God, God, remind me what you want me to dream of. And then move forward. Will you stand with me? Where you are may not be where you thought you'd be, but who are you to say it's not where you're supposed to be? If you're in here and you're ready to give up on your dream, give up on the vision, don't do it. Be faithful and be faith-filled. Father, in Jesus' name, draw us to repentance this morning where we want to throw in the towel, where we're tired, discouraged, worn out, God, in our heart. We see ourselves as poor, unequipped, alone, but we're not alone. God, forgive us for looking at our circumstance for validation instead of just listening to you. Without faith, it is impossible to please you. God, fill in the gap of our faith this morning. Fill it up, Jesus. Let that river of faith flow into our hearts and fill up the passion gaps. Fill up the fatigue gaps. God, fill up the doubt gaps. God, fill up the places where we haven't moved forward. Reignite vision in our heart, God. Reignite purpose. Reignite plans. Show us, God, how to do our best in following you in the toughest of seasons. Teach us, Lord, to honor you in the hardest of days. To love you, God, in the worst of moments. Jesus, we said that we would follow you. We told you that we would go where you want us to go. We told you that we would say what you want us to say. So, Father, no matter what that looks like, no matter where you send me, no matter what you tell me to do, my answer is yes, right now. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for watching. We would love for you to connect with us online. On our website, you will find up-to-date information about everything happening around here. Look for us on Facebook and Instagram. And please download our free app on your smartphone or tablet. We are so glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy your friendship experience.